In this video, I wanted to go back to the board set that had been recently shown in several videos and highlight a couple of the changes that the customer requested after he reviewed those videos. So this is the large 30-piece board set that comprises the table of 20 feet by 6 feet. This is the Arnhem and Oosterbeek set. Again, forgive my pronunciation here, for a conflict in Northern Europe. Now, for World War II. Now, this board set features a railroad system and a road system, as well as a city section, which I'll show you, and a river section, which I'll show you in just a minute. But first, once the customer reviewed the video of the set, he saw that the rails, which I had left untouched, were quite brassy and shiny. These were sort of stock right off the shelf from the railroad hobby store, and he requested that I put a little aging on them, and also that I blend in the color of the ballast to more closely match the soil. Now, although the ballast of railroads doesn't typically match exactly, of course, the surrounding soil as it's rock versus soil, I got the impression that, the overall look here is to try to mute this so that it doesn't pop off the board quite so vividly, which admittedly the previous ballast color, which was a bright gray, did. So what I did is I gave these a very aggressive wash with a very dark brown tinted with a few other darker pigments and some oh gosh, what the heck did I put in there? Some inks, etc. And really went to try to mute that shiny brass down a bit. Now it still shows just a little bit in some of the areas, particularly, surprisingly, for reasons I'm not quite sure, the brass joints of the connectors where the actually this isn't really brass. I think these are nickel mixed with some other metal. Anyway, these joints where the railroad sections meet didn't take up quite as much of the wash, but overall it's really taken down the overall sheen of the railroads quite a bit, and also gave a very nice tint. Whoops, let me pan back a little bit there. Very nice tint to the gravel ballast for the railroad base, and muted that quite a bit. So again, now you can see that contrast to the soil is not quite as stark, and overall they blend in much better. So you get a lot less of a high contrast from the railroad sections. Now the customer also requested for the large section of tiled brickwork, which comprises the city of Arnhem, that I repaint the brickwork to more closely match the roads. And here you see a small section of the road that was coming in. The road's been painted to be brickwork, and these I had left as the original styrene color and had merely grouted in the individual bricks. So what I had to do is go back and I repainted them all with a base black, and then went in to do successive layers of dry brushing. Now, again, in this video, it does not pick up the detail. So at the time that I've posted this video, I have already posted the pictures of these, so you can go directly to the website to see the actual brickwork detail. But one of the things I was concerned is because the detail of these bricks at HO scale is so small that the individual blocks would be filled in, and I'd lose some of that detail that actually shows that these are brick sheets. And I was very pleasantly surprised to see that that brickwork was retained. And although it's quite difficult to dry brush such large, broad, flat expanses, what ended up happening, and again, I don't know if it entirely comes through in this video, is it came out with actually a kind of a nice modeled pattern where there are some higher, sort of more brightly colored brick areas, and then some slightly darker, a little bit deeper, grayish areas. And maybe if I can angle the camera around in the lighting, you might get a better sense of that. I don't know if that's going to quite come through. One of the other advantages I noticed right away when I had done this is that it gave the bricks a very, very matte look. And the styrene sheets, although I had given them a clear coat of matte finish to dull them down, still had a bit of a shine. And so areas, here where the light you can see striking it, were actually still quite reflective. So this new color on the bricks has really made these sheets look a lot better. And even though it did pick up some of the edges where, of course, when you dry brush, you're going to pick up these edges quite a bit, it really muted the overall feel of the edges, and for some reason it reduced the appearance of a little bit of light scalloping that some of the boards were having from the way that they are actually the way they're manufactured and installed. And so overall, a vast improvement on the brick sheets. And I just wanted to point out, this is one of those great things about doing custom projects and having a customer who really puts it to me and says, Mike, I'd like you to do this. Can we make it this much better? Can you do this extra technique? What can you do to improve it? And it just pushes me to kind of try some things that I would have been afraid to do. Like I said, putting paint on these fine brick details, I was pretty nervous about, but it actually really stepped it up. And so that's one of the things I enjoy about doing these custom projects. And lastly, I wanted to also show a improved sort of revised appearance for the overall river. Although the customer didn't actually request any modifications to the river appearance, the textured coating that I had applied to the surface to give it the appearance of movement or waves had a few brush strokes that had come into it. And while that's unavoidable and quite frankly wasn't exactly a detriment to it, as they contributed somewhat to the motion of it, I just felt like it imparted a bit of an unnatural appearance. So what I did is I went back in and I recoated them again. Let's see if I can get a little bit of a look here. I recoated it with yet another layer of the epoxy resin on top of the texture coating. And what that did is that filled the bottom of the troughs, if you will, and leveled them, hiding the brush strokes but leaving a lot of the peaks and the crests. And so what I ended up with then is a fairly nice textured surface that gives that appearance of maybe some cascading waves, some drifts that but without the brush strokes, and it actually muted a bit of the bubbles that were in part of the see if I can get that in, the acrylic coating that gave it the texture. And those bubbles, I think in this instance now with the top coat, actually work to enhance the look of the water, as though the churning light waves have a bit of motion, have entrapped a little bit of air as they roll through. It's an interesting technique, and one that I'm going to be exploring more as I continue to do water. I feel like there's so much to learn with doing water techniques, and this is probably, I feel, maybe the best water effect that I've achieved to date. And I think with the light coming off of it, especially as you can see as you get down to certain reflective angles, it really has a nice look. And one of the nice things too is the epoxy layer over the acrylic finish made this considerably more durable. One of the things when you use acrylic finishes, matte acrylic finishes or gloss, I mean, to do water effects, is that they can remain, I don't want to say tacky, but they can remain a little soft and can scratch more easily. So by putting on an epoxy layer of a much harder resin on the top, it's given this a considerably larger, or I should say, it made that considerably more durable. So anyway, I just wanted to give you a quick glimpse of some of those modifications and give you another sense of some of the requests that customers might make and some of the modifications that could be done after review. It's one of the reasons why I post these videos and try to do as many detailed pictures as I do. So if you want to take a look at this board set in detail, you can go to TerranScapes.com, and in the custom work gallery there'll be updated photos that show a lot of these boards with up close macro photos so that you can see the detail and get a better perspective than is really possible in these videos.